I'm a research entomologist, so I'm always talking about zoology and about entomology. Entomology, this is science about insects. And my channel is devoted to insects and arthropods, devoted to nature, English language, history, and many other things. You can observe my insects which I have recorded in captivity, in laboratory, and also in natural environment. It's quite easy to observe some insects and arthropods in captivity because you can watch them under the microscope. You don't have a microscope, only zoom camera. In natural environment, it's quite much better to observe natural behavior of insects in natural conditions. But nevertheless, you can find something interesting even at home, at kitchen, if you keep some insects in culture, because culture is quite interesting stuff. It develops your observational skills, develops your experimental skills as zoologist, as entomologist. Not many people are interested in insects. Majority of people are hating insects very much. Many people are afraid of insects. I hope so that this video will start and will promote a little bit care about insects, because some insects are really helpless. We need some care, we need some protection. Because they are very weak, they are very small, and they can be easily destroyed by human beings. Join our stream, join our questions. I'm not quite sure if I'm recording it in online, but let's watch. It's evening time, it's actually autumn time. 21st day of September, late September, more or less warm temperature now, about 22 degrees centigrade. Sunny. Today we didn't have actually air alert sirens, so more or less quiet for today, for this weekend, because I'm translating it on Saturday, weekend time. And then actually what I'm talking about, autumn. You can say all insects are going to sleep in autumn time because winter is coming, winter, spring, wet winter. Many insects are suffering during winter and springtime. But nevertheless, even in autumn time, you can collect some insects and you can find something interesting. What you can collect? First of all, you can collect insects which are developing inside plants, because plants grew up already, they are just drying now. They have their flower bulbs, they have their fruits, they have their seeds, and in autumn time, this is perfect time, the best time for collecting some insects inside stems, inside plants. Hello to Sweet. What is your home city? Write in comments. Some people are joining us, and you can write in recording mode and in chat, home city, home country. If it is friendly country, I just very appreciate it to communicate with friendly people from friendly countries. If some people are coming from unfriendly countries, I just delete it and put it to block, by the way. So we started to talk about seeds, about fruits, about stems, because you can collect in glasses, in glass jars, you can collect in plastic jars, plastic packets, some seeds, some dry stems, and you can rear, you can breed some interesting insects, seed-feeding insects, stem-feeding insects, and fruit-feeding insects, which will hatch from fruits, from seeds, from stems, from flower bulbs, for example. The simplest way to collect some seeds. Now you can find, for instance, this funny plant. This is Glydicia triacanthus. Very common plant in the city, because this is introduced species which has been introduced to many countries. I have found it actually, this plant, in Turkish Republic, but I didn't find in Turkish Republic, in Ankara and in Istanbul, seed-feeding beetles, because there are some seed beetles of family Curculanidae, Bruchina, Megabruchidius, which is feeding inside these buds on seeds of this interesting plant, Glydicia triacanthus. you can be the first, you can find this interesting insect in your country. Maybe it's already have been introduced just occasionally, or accidentally, to Turkish Republic. Why not? Or maybe in your other country in Middle East, or somewhere in East, Southeast countries. Maybe this species, Megabruchidius triacanthus, Megabruchidius longipes, Lidicia triacanthus, species name of seed beetle Megabruchidius, has not been recorded in your country. Now this species is spreading all around Europe, together with parasites, because I also reared parasite from seeds, parasite from one family of calcid wasps, family Eurytamidae, attacked here, interestingly, larvae and pupa of these beetles, Megabruchidius, and I got parasitoid from the stems. So you can be first, you can find some interesting species of parasitoids from these seeds. And other species of Fabaceae family, with big seeds, with big pods, or with short spots like Pseudacacia and other species, very convenient for breeding, for rearing different seed-eating insects, which are sitting inside seeds, inside pots. You can put it inside plastic jars and you can breed them. And you can find something interesting. And of course now many insects are preparing for hibernation. So I showed you just before some interesting wasps we were flying by. Today I have no wasps, but I have plastic jar to show you some bugs. Some bugs because it's a little bit late. But bugs you see crawling around. These bugs, quite a lot of them, they are also preparing for hibernation. They're just crawling around searching for some food, and they're making large aggregations, and you see they're feeding also on seeds. These are very common British name of this bug, firebug, or European bug. Species name in Latin, Pyrocoris apterus. Pyrocoris apterus, family Pyrocaridae, which has red and black coloration. So the name Pyrocoris apterus, firebug, very common in different countries of Europe. Apterus, because this species usually do not fly. The bugs, they do not fly. But surprisingly, it was found that some specimens, some populations may have also specimens with normally developed wings. Yes, some part of population can fly. This can be surprise if you can observe carefully. For your population, you can find Apterus population, and you can find Ptera population with wings. Actually, I have not seen population with wings. Maybe it's a very low number of specimens, by the way. But you see, they're crawling very well, and they're feeding on seeds of mallow tree. The best plant is a mallow tree, and also the best plant is a lime tree. Usually all these bugs are hiding somewhere on a bark or just beneath the ground or somewhere under the leaves, especially of lime tree. And what about another insects? So for instance, you can find in autumn time this lovely plant is Linaria. Oh, you see, just some night moths are flying around. You see, have you seen this plant? Yes, this very common plant, Linaria officinalis, or Linaria vulgaris. Linaria vulgaris. It's flowering during the whole summertime, and even you see in autumn time. But in autumn time, this plant is forming seeds. And surprisingly, there are special interesting insects which are living on this plant. You see, very beautiful one, Linaria vulgaris. There are some weevils, small weevils about 2 millimeters size, rounded, of family Curculionidae, curculinidae, they are living inside seed pods of this lovely plant. So if you can collect some seed pods, definitely green or dry, put them in a jar, like this one, or in a glass jar, and take care about them, observe them carefully. You can collect some interesting weasels, very short, with very short body, like a rounded shape. And maybe you can find also some parasitoids of these interesting weevils. They can be interestingly nearly found in your area as well. So search for this insect, search for these plants. You can find very interesting material. And for instance, what about in other fruits and other seeds? So I have collected some fruits of wild rose or just domesticated rose, rosy hip, you see. Now they are going to be red, yellow or reddish, and then drying very slowly during autumn time and drying during the winter time. Rosy hip. What's interesting about them? Many insects are feeding on fruits of rosy hip. There are some seed-feeding insects, some interesting species. Calcid wasps are feeding on seeds inside these fruits. If you keep these interesting fruits at home, you can dry them, like preparing for making wild rose tea. But you don't need to use it for tea. You can collect just in your area, in your garden, in your orchard, or just in a forest. For instance, these interesting fruits, dry them up. Whether you are living in Europe, Asia, in Africa, in Australia, you can keep them, dry them, and keep them just in dry place in a glass jar. Surprisingly, you can receive interesting material of seed-feeding insects which are developing inside a rosy hip. Maybe even some new species. I'm just preparing observation, preparing a review of these species, so you can contact me for identification. And you can make this experiment during autumn, winter and springtime, because usually if you keep them dry in a glass jar, some seed-feeding insects will emerge very soon, maybe in December or in January. If you keep them in a cold place, you can rear them just even later in springtime. Naturally, they're coming in springtime, somewhere in May. I emerge them just in this season in April and May. This is their natural hatching time. So remember, collect rosy hip fruits, keep them dry, and then keep them just in glass jars. You can rear some interesting, unique insects, unique seed-feeding insects of a superfamily Calcididae, calcid wasps. Maybe this can be very interesting scientific material. So I'm explaining you some kind of scientific experiments. You know, it's going to be a little bit dark even now. I'm sitting near Christian Orthodox Church with some monuments nearby, and this name is named Chernobyl Christian Orthodox Church. So don't forget that even in autumn time, in September, in October, and even in November, in a cold time when some insects already started to hibernate underground, it's possible to collect some interesting fruits, seeds, pods, flower pods, stems, keep them in some plastic or glass jars, and rear some very interesting and unique scientific material. So, and don't forget about flowers. Some insects still flying around flowers. Today I just came to the park evening time. Already I couldn't find some flying bees and bumblebees. Maybe tomorrow I can come to the park. You can find some flying wasps, like paper wasps, some yellow jackets, maybe some bees and bumblebees on flowers like this one, because this one are favorite for bumblebees. Majority of bumblebees, majority of queens already are hibernating because they're hibernating after mating. They need to mate in autumn time, in late summertime, and immediately they hide underground. So now only just unfertilized queens are flying somewhere nearby. So they're unhappy. If they mate, they will immediately hide underground. So let's watch around. There are some Georgians, some late autumn time flowers are flowering and blossom now, like Georgians, like I've seen it in a botanical garden. So probably unfertilized, unmated queens were flying by around these flowers. Let's watch around flowers, and I can take some video near flowers too. This is a show, and also I have one jar more with some ants. Yes, maybe I can show you tomorrow if some insects will survive, because here I have stem. I have piece of stem with interesting insects. I have this piece of stem with ants and with sucking insects with aphids. Because here this is a cosmos flower stem with aphids. Aphids were sitting around, and when I put it inside the jar, it was completely covered with ants. Ants were licking liquid from ants. This is their home garden of aphids on flowers. So they're unhappy now because they are crawling around, but we have a little bit food at least for tomorrow. If I can survive for tomorrow, I can show you some aphids and ants as well. And if you can collect some aphids on plants, also you can take them in glass jars or in plastic jars, and you can find some cocoons among the colony, and you can breed some interesting parasites, some parasitoids to be precise, of family Aphelinidae and Aphididae. So parasitoids of aphids are weakly studied because so many species of aphids around the world, and there are specialized parasitoids. Each parasitoid is usually specialized on special species of aphids. So you can find new species, definitely in your country, in your region, new area. So be careful about aphids. Try to search them, try to study them, and you can obviously collect some interesting parasitoids. Aphididae, Aphidius colemani, for instance, and many other species. And Aphelinidae, Calcidosper family, Aphelinidae. Quite interesting. So you see here, I just looked for some plants and for some insects, just 20 minutes in a park. And I have collected a bunch of interesting insects, a bunch of interesting plants, a bunch of interesting seeds and flowers, probably with some insects inside, and of course with some of them too, which I showed you already. I'm sitting near special monument, near the monument of Virgin Mary. So you can see here, this is near Christian Orthodox Church. It's already dark, some big pine trees here nearby. And also this here, monument devoted to firemen who lost their lives saving us in after Chernobyl disaster. Firemen were just liquidators of Chernobyl disaster, Kyiv, 1986. So this church is devoted to Chernobyl. So the precise name of this Christian Orthodox Church is Saint Michael Cathedral, but originally people say it also Chernobyl Cathedral because here a special monument which was erected in 1986, devoted to firemen who lost their lives in liquidation of some consequences of Chernobyl disaster in 1986 near Kyiv in Chernobyl city. Some people are writing here some messages. Hello to Anastasia. I hope Anastasia from friendly country. If you are from Ukraine, write your home country. Some people from other countries watching me, write your home country to understand who was watching us. Okay, greetings. I'm translating it from Darnitsa region in Kyiv. So this is left bank of city of Kyiv. And this is Chernobyl Christian Orthodox Cathedral, or St. Michael Christian Orthodox Cathedral. So today we had a story about insects. Today I explain you some interesting life cycles for insects and some methods how to find interesting insects during autumn time. It's going to be late, it's going to be dark. Thank you for coming. To be continued. And don't forget, stand with Ukraine. Don't forget, support Ukraine. And don't forget, help to Ukraine. And I hope so you didn't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also you can visit my Patreon page or just press on sponsorship button on YouTube. Welcome to join my sponsors team. This will be pleasant feedback. So don't forget, stand with Ukraine, support Ukraine, help to Ukraine. And Ukraine will win. See you soon on my new channel, on my new streams, my new direct translations, evening time, night time, or daytime. Thank you for coming. I'm living now in Ukraine. I'm sending this direct translation from Kyiv, capital of Ukraine. So don't tell me about this funny country which is not friendly for Ukraine. Not funny, this bloody country which is fighting against our independent country. Thank you for coming. Ukraine will win. Subscribe to my channel, don't forget about it. And if you have questions, you have opportunity to write your private question on my email privately, or you can write your straight question just in comments under this video. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. That's right. Anastasia, thank you for coming. See you soon on my channel. To be continued.